What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Real Estate Uncensored. We have a great repeat guest. Tom Caffarella is back. We're talking about big capital, what it's doing to real estate. We're talking about what you can do about it, whether you're an agent, and we might get into the investing side a little bit. We're going to talk about the eviction moratorium and that potentially coming to an end, and what Tom has been doing with his renters and all kinds of stuff. We're going to cover a bunch of stuff. Tom is one of those guys that is both has 1 foot squarely in the investment and the brokerage side, like owning a brokerage in the Boston area, has 200 and some agents underneath him. So very much in the residential side and the investing side. And of course, Gene Volpe is here. So we have another East Coast, West Coast battle, right? We got a couple of East Coasters on the show. Greg and I, we may not even get an episode, a word in edgewise in this entire episode, which I'm fine with, by the way. We'll just let Gene and Tom just add to steal one.
Tom, there's no respect coming out of him at all.
Unbelievable. The amount of bullshit that comes out of this man's mouth is just astronomical.
By the time that you guys are waking up, we're halfway through our day, so I'm not really scared of the West Coast too much.
Tom, that's exactly why I'm sitting here. I'm saying Matt doesn't even let you even get a word in. He's saying your audio doesn't work. So we hold on. We got to readjust our audio. There it is. Matt's out. Okay. All right. Now we're gonna bring him back in. It's like when you're a parent. When your kid starts mouthing off, you just click the off button and you're like, motherfucker, you're out.
You clearly you do not have children. That's not the way it works at all.
No, clearly it does not.
That is true. That is hilarious and true, Gene. All right. Well, the junior grandmaster, you are nowhere near any children. You are in your co-pilot seat, firmly ensconced up in the Bay Area, where you so belong, very, very far away from me. As we were discussing in pre-show, you have your 40 caliber sitting on the counter next to you. You're trying to threaten me with it over a video call, which I thought was very hilarious. I assume you'll be arrested very shortly in the Bay Area there for brandishing, right? Can't brandish.
No, I have to brandish out in the public. So inside, right. Showing it to you guys is mainly just me just going like, check out my new toy. But no, I actually carry this thing. I don't actually carry it. I keep it next to me all the time when I sleep and everything else. That's not a joke. Literally not a joke. But I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk about Tom. I mean, he's a devastatingly handsome man. I mean, Gene, I feel bad for you having to sit next to him on the squares. Matt, I mean, you're a good-looking dude too. But I mean, we have 3 good-looking human beings on this show, and I'm going to take myself out of this. And I'm just going to listen to Tom talk. I mean, I'm sitting here waiting to sit at his feet and just learn. That's what I'm here to do.
Oh my God. It's so, how do you make it sound so disingenuous, Greg, while trying to give someone an actual compliment? Oh my God.
It is genuous, you asshole. God, why do you diminish my comments? My God.
Oh my God. All right. And then Gene, I don't know what Gene's doing. Gene's literally taking a phone call during our podcast. The evil bald ninja himself.
I'm making a phone call. Hold on one second. Yes. Yeah, Governor Newsom. Yep. No. I feel threatened. Yeah, because Greg, what's your address? I'd like for you to get out there and talk to him for a second. I've been threatened on live. On live. What's up, boys? How you doing today?
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We're having a miscommunication with you. Oh, his feed just failed. I don't know what happened to him. Oh, there he is. He popped back. There he is. Oh my gosh, so strange.
Well, the good news is, Greg, thanks to you, no one that's listening to this in podcast form will ever know whether we actually lost connection with someone or whether you just unceremoniously cut them off at the feed. All right.
What do you mean, Matt? What do you mean? I'm so sorry. It's so weird.
Trying to welcome in our guest, Tom Caffarella. What's up, man? How are you?
What's going on, gentlemen?
I don't know how gentlemen we are today. I think boys are more appropriate for however we're feeling today. But for anybody that may not have caught your first couple of episodes you've done, we've been on the show multiple times. But for anybody that didn't have the opportunity of listening to those prior episodes, just give us like the 60-second version, who you are, where you are, what you do.
So I'm out of the Boston area. I've been an investor and agent now. I used to say 10 years when it was like 5 years to exaggerate to get myself experienced. And now it's like 16 years. And I turned 39 this weekend, so I've got one more year before I'm officially in midlife crisis mode. But
hey,
I've always
don't
been
hate on that. Don't hate on that.
no,
Trust me.
no, I'm feeling good. So yeah, I've been investing in and also building my brokerage for a while. You know, our company does between 150 and 250 fix and flips a year. We've got, like Max said, I've got 350 agents as of now. And really just like every year, just trying to make a little bit of progress, you know, in my business, invest, build passive wealth, and help other people build passive wealth in my brokerage and outside of my brokerage. So that's kind of the high level of, you know, what I do.
Awesome. All right. So we've got a lot to get into. So let's start with just give us a sense of kind of where you're at now in the business. And I want to talk more about the leadership and stuff like that later on, but give people kind of a sneak peek into what your days look like right now, like scaling up a real estate business.
Yeah. And, you know, we were talking about this before we jumped on for a few minutes, and I feel like I'm at a challenge right now that I haven't really faced before. And it's been probably the hardest thing that I've had to do with building my business. We just try to get people and train and mentor people like underneath me. I'm a really, really good worker myself. I love working. I love real estate. So like my first, you know, 4, 5, 6 years in the business doing everything myself, like, you know, there was nobody to train or mentor or hire or whatever. And, you know, I'm at the point now where like I've hired a lot of people underneath me, and we were talking about like me having way too many direct reports. And right now I'm trying to kind of build up like a middle level management within my business to help me kind of succeed. I've got a COO that I just hired, a CFO, and a couple other people that I'm trying to make kind of middle level management. But in terms of my day to day, I spend most of my time trying to figure out like how to build processes for the people that are underneath me, and then hire the right people just to help me, you know, like you said, scale my business more than anything else.
Yeah. So what, like, how does that actually manifest? What does an average day in your life look like? How much time do you spend like actually digging into the particulars of real estate deals yourself? Is it all spent just with people and building out stuff and leading them? Like, what's your average day look like right now?
Yeah, so the analyzing deals, I've got somebody within my company that does that for me now, full-time like analyst. When we get an opportunity that comes in, she kind of like does all the work, and then I approve it, like if it's a deal we're going to move forward with. So for the most part, my day-to-day comes down to like answering questions from the people that are reporting underneath me, thinking about the ways that we can move the needle in the business. There's a book that I've been following. I forget the exact name of it, but it's like, you know, your business is a leaky bucket. And I'm at the point right now where like when I'm kind of like a run and gun type of person where like I don't like details and I don't pay attention to like the little stuff. And over the past few years, like I've realized like how much money I've kind of left on the table by not focusing on the details. And so right now I'm going through like all areas of my business, all people in my business, all the way that we're working to say, hey, if we just got like 10% better conversion here, or if we just tighten up this one system, like I'm at the point now where some of those tweaks can mean literally like millions of dollars. So that's what I'm kind of trying to fine tune within my own market right now.
Love it. All right. So I want to come back to that, and I want to talk about some of the leadership and hiring and all that stuff. We can nerd on that for a long time, but let's talk a little bit just about something super, super timely, which is the eviction moratorium and the chance that might either expire, run. I don't know the exact like legislative details. It sounds like it's something that was set to expire, that maybe they'll renew it at the 11th hour or something like that. But anyway, this is something that's been kind of hanging over, I guess, everyone's head. Obviously the renters, then you've got, you know, like I think people have the misconception, which Chris Noggle talked about this on the show and helped us kind of break out of this misconception that, you know, everything is owned by these big, massive investors. And a lot of real estate, or most real estate even, is just owned by mom and pop investors that have a handful of properties, or maybe they have one side property or something like that. And they're the ones that are being squeezed by the more moratoriums on evictions. Like they can't kick people out. They're not making money from their rental property, and they're squeezed by all this too. So how have you been dealing with it? And what's the, we can talk about the implications of it, but what are you guys doing right now for your renters?
So we kind of, it's interesting because like we built up a pretty good size rental property portfolio in the greater Boston area. And, I think it's interesting because like state to state, all of this stuff changes so dramatically. And it's something that like, if somebody was just starting, like I would really heavily consider like, what are the laws in that area? Because like you said, most people who own residential multifamilies are just mom and pop people who can't withstand, a lot of this type of stuff. And I know a lot of people who got, really damaged from all this moratorium stuff. And again, I think it's like a state by state thing that's just such a variable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that makes total sense. I've got a good friend here that had been living in San Diego. He just moved out, but all of his investment properties are in Omaha and in Texas. And that's a big reason why. I mean, he basically said like, look, I'll never buy. I have like no intention of ever buying in California, whether to live or to rent, because the rules are so insanely tilted that it doesn't make a lot of sense to be a landlord in California, which is funny because I ran into a kid outside the grocery store one time. This was about 5 months ago. I don't think I told you about this, Greg, but he was offering a petition to recall a politician. I'm like, oh, let me sign that, recall them all. So I'm like, why? So after I signed it, I'm like, why in particular this particular politician? Why are we recalling this person? And he's like, well, because they didn't vote for X, Y, and Z that made it that put more rules on developers to make sure that they have like low income housing as a part of their development. And I'm like, do you know any developers? Like, do you know people who build real estate? He's like, no. I'm like, so these are like my friends and clients, right? He's like, okay. I'm like, do you realize like how many people wish they could build in California, but it's too expensive and they can't do it? It's like, no. What do you mean? like you're volunteering your time standing outside of a grocery store getting someone to sign something, and you don't know anyone who's ever tried to build real estate in California. You have no idea what the F you're talking about. I thought it was hilarious. But yeah,
I'm sorry, Matt. What does the F you're talking about mean? I don't understand your vernacular.
He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. How's that better?
Okay, good. Okay, now we can talk. Okay, good.
Tom has kids in the background. We got to keep it down. We got to keep the.
Gene's laughing. I mean, come on. Tom's sitting there going like, "What the shit am I doing on this show?"
Oh my god!
I'm going to tell you why I'm laughing. I think it's important to realize that I got my Gringo game out, and I don't have anything. I don't have anything on there when Matt says fuck. So I'm laughing because I got to change something out now. I got it all for you. He said it first. He's screwing my game up.
All right, so Gene,
well, the nose pinch thing, that's got to be me.
Gene, you have to explain what exactly this game you're explaining really quickly.
I hope by now everybody's playing along, but it's bingo in the form of Greg, so we call it Gringo. And throughout the show, there's just different things that we're going to be checking off, and whoever gets Gringo first wins a free hat. I don't know.
Well, I hope you go fuck yourself.
Free hat.
Is that
and there's one towards Gringo.
What a free? Oh, I know. You win a free copy of. Give me a good book, Greg. What would be a good book that we could give away?
Go for no.
No, another book that we have at our disposal that we could give away.
Wait, hold on. Wait. Please wait for the panel to come alive. There is a wonderful, wonderful little pamphlet that I've heard of. It's called Microfamous.
Yes. Yeah. I tricked you into that.
Is that what you're going?
There it is. Mentions Microfamous. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you, Greg. Well, I appreciate it. Now I get a chance to give away my book to listeners if they get Gringo bases off of the insane things you say. All right, I like that. All right, let's get into big capital. So, Tom, what are you seeing? It sounds like there is a lot of venture capital making its way in through private equity. There's big equity groups and stuff like that. There's venture capital going into Silicon Valley, into startups, which seems like it's now coming into there's all kinds of weird things going on. So first of all, let's give people like the big perspective. If they're just kind of in the trenches, they're talking to buyers and sellers, they're not really paying attention to this stuff. What's the big picture of what you're seeing with capital right now?
Well, I thought I knew what was going to happen with the real estate brokerage world, 2 or 3 years ago, the investing world 2 or 3 years ago. And I have to say, I'm pretty surprised. I mean, maybe I just didn't do my homework enough or whatever. But all of these companies that are coming onto the scene hard in the last few years have really like, I mean, I hate the word disruptors or whatever that is, because I feel like it's overused, but there's definitely been a ton of disruption. On the brokerage side, I mean, you have, people coming in like Compass or like all of these other companies that they have so much capital. I've had, I've seen agents get bonuses like, more than they would ever, make the company in commissions. Zillow, Clever, Open Door, Redfin, all of these other companies that are just coming in. And a lot of the things that they're doing, at least on paper, don't make a lot of sense. And every single one of these companies, they have their long-term plan, their long-term vision. And I can't predict like where those companies are going to head or whether or not they're going to be successful. But I'll give you an example of something that happened to me about a month ago. We had gone out to a single family property, and we're pretty aggressive. Like when we're going to flip a house, like we go out there, we make a really good offer. This home needed a ton of work, so it could only sell to an investor. And long story short, we got outbid by $60,000. So I said, that's strange, because like, the offer I made, I wouldn't have made $6,000 if I fixed and flipped it. And I reached back out to the person who took the appointment from me. I said, can you do me a favor? Find out who that buyer is. Like, they're crazy. And long story short, it was Redfin. And
whoa.
Yeah. So I know that all of these iBuyers are like in a lot of different markets, but they weren't at all in Boston. Redfin is the first one to come into Boston. We don't have Open Door or OfferPad or Zillow offers or anything like that. And I think there's a lot of reasons why they're not in my market. But the offer that Redfin made to this person in a town called Tewksbury, near where I live, they're going to lose money. Short of the market appreciating like 5% in the next couple months, they're going to lose money on this deal. And I've talked to so many other people that are in my position in parts of the country where all of these players are, and they're making offers that they're going to lose money on. And I guess part of their plan, like a Zillow, is that's okay for them because they're earning ancillary income on other parts of the transaction, whether they're doing mortgage or whether they're selling leads or whether or not they just want to get market awareness. But there's a lot of that happening both on the investor side and on the agent side. Another thing that happened to me, it's just like another example, is I've spent a lot of time, effort, energy, and money into search engine optimization in order to show up high for cash offer type of key phrases like, sell your house fast and whatnot. And I used to do pretty well with it. It wasn't like my biggest source of leads, but recently I've been kind of like looking and I'm like, oh man, like I used to be number one. Now I'm number 4. And I'm looking at like, okay, who's 1, 2, and 3? Because I know that like the people that are in my market typically can't compete with like what I'm doing. So I'm like, who is this? And then I look and it's a company like HomeLight, company like Clever Real Estate, and all of these like big companies. And I'm seeing them spend easily, I want to say millions, but it's way more than just like a 1 million or 2 million on their search engine optimization, like really building out their sites like crazy in order to lead generate. And some of these companies are just turning around and selling the leads to me. So it's like, from my perspective, like it doesn't really matter, but obviously like we're losing a little bit of control over the lead flow. And just like how Zillow was selling buyer leads to people for like $30 and now they're like 500, what we're paying now might not be what we're going to pay in 3 months from now.
Wait, so can I dig into that for a second? My head hurts a little bit. Why, Tom, give me an opinion on this. Why do you think that they're doing this? Is it just a play to hold assets and inventory? Like why would these companies be coming in and paying X% over what the property's worth now? And because my thought process is this, I kind of feel like the market's going to correct, right? And if it does, that means it's going to go down. So they're paying overpriced now for something that's going to be underpriced in 18 months. Like, what's your thought? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I can only say what they're saying publicly, which I think what they're saying publicly is the truth. I think like for example, with Zillow, they want the consumer, no matter what they're doing related to real estate, to think of Zillow first. So they don't want them to think about anybody else. They don't want them to think about me. Like even if somebody's going to sell to an investor, they want the person to think Zillow. So they're willing to pay for somebody to think that way. Second thing that I've heard is there's a lot of ancillary income sources that they're generating. So if somebody fills out the form to sell their house fast and Zillow buys the house, they're also pushing like mortgage products on them. And then when they actually get the listing, they're selling leads either, directly for money to agents, or they're doing like the referral model, which again is a totally different thing about like how Zillow and Realtor.com changed their model and like totally disrupted us in the past few years. Instead of selling us leads, they're doing these like, 35% off the top goes to them type of model. But I think it like from my perspective, all these companies, Redfin, Zillow, Opendoor, OfferPad, they all just have so much cash. And their number one thing right now, from my perspective, is just get as many customers as you can, forget about the cost. And like in the end, if we win, then we're going to be ahead. And so I think like you saw that like in the 90s with like the stock market bubble. And it feels kind of the same to me, even though like I was a lot younger then and I wasn't in the market. But it just seems like with Compass, like I said, like I had an agent that like paid into me 10 grand for the year, and Compass gave them a $30,000 sign-on bonus. So it's like, I mean, I love the agent, but I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like a good investment. So there's just so much stuff like that, and it's starting to trickle down even to like the mom and pops, but it's mainly coming from like these really large entities that have cash.
That's so interesting. All right, really Greg. So let's turn to you real quick, because you're in the East Bay. So a lot of these companies are like in your neck of the woods, and if they expand out in the suburbs, they basically run into to Big Greg, the junior grandmaster himself out there in the subs. So how much do you run across this? The OfferPads, Zillow. How much do you run across the iBuyer stuff at this point this summer?
Yeah, very good question, Matt. One of the things that I've seen quite a bit, and it's actually really becoming something that's irritating, when you do cold calls, like I do quite a bit. I'm seeing more and more times when it comes to the like, hey, your call is going to be recorded for training purposes because you're going to be calling Zillow, and I'm like, well, okay, well, fuck you guys too. You said never compete. Now you're going to compete, and they took away all of the Zillow reviews, took away a ton of different things, attributes that us agents really relied on. But we're seeing it as something that's really becoming something more and more that you need to kind of look at. So I'm 100% with Tom, man. I think it's not going away. It's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Because why? Like Tom said, they have way more money than you do right now, which sucks balls. But it is what it is.
Well, I would add another reason to that, which is that the consumer doesn't want to deal with an agent unless they have to. So unfortunately,
can I just flip it though on like the positives? And one thing that like a friend of mine is doing, which is kind of funny and interesting. So what he does, he runs a similar business to mine where he's doing a lot of seller marketing, getting into people's homes, making offers. So what he's doing is it cracks me up. Before he goes out to the house, he puts into Zillow like the home to see what Zillow's going to offer, and then he sells the house to Zillow. So for example, like he knows that if Zillow's going to pay 300 and 300 is just like way too much, and he can buy the house for 250, he's closing on the house, then selling it to Zillow. So instead of flipping it, like instead of renovating it and flipping it to a retail buyer, he's not even doing the work and then selling it to Zillow.
Interesting.
And of course,
he's buying it first, or he's doing an assign.
He's buying it first. Zillow won't let you. At least, like I doubt. Maybe you could, but I doubt like Zillow's going to allow for that. But he is closing on them. But he knows what Zillow is going to pay, and that's like the funny part of it.
Interesting. So he's getting like a trickle down benefit from Zillow's overspending or willingness to overspend, as long as he's perceived as being the homeowner and not just a wholesaler, hotel or something like that.
Well, he is closing on it. So
yeah. So he is the actual like homeowner by the time it gets around to like selling to Zillow. That's really interesting. Yeah, that's Greg, in the trenches are you running up against people who are bringing up these iBuyer stuff like in your listing presentations, or do you run into that like more on the lower price points?
No, not at all. Not whatsoever.
Okay.
No.
So you're on the seller side. If you can get into the house, at least from your perspective, it's not like you're competing with them head on. You're because that like they're already in like a retail mindset, right? Let's get it on the market. Let's get the most that we can get out of it. They're not, so like the iBuyer isn't like really on the table. So that makes sense to me.
Well, it can. It potentially could always be on the table. The number one thing you need to do when you come across these kind of conversations is ask a lot of questions in regards to what's your biggest interest, why are you looking at doing this, what's your net you're looking at. If I could get you a higher price, would you be willing to sit with me for 5 minutes so I can show you how this works? iBuyer is the shiny, sexy object that everybody's going to look at, but in reality, it actually is going to cost the seller more money. So if you actually inform them in the regards of like how much is this going to actually net to you at the end of the day, and you break it out, then most people will be able to back away from it and be like, damn, okay, that sounded good, but it's not that good. It's like going on Tinder and going on a lot of first dates. You don't know what you're going to get on. When it comes to like the people you're going to meet, because they could just be full of a lot of what, and when I say what, I mean a whole lot of horse shit. I just want to I want to get mad.
Yeah, we got it.
Gene's not even paying attention. Tom's
bullshit. I'm not. I just marked out another thing on Gringo. He said sure. I am so paying attention. You got to be rid of it. No, but here's what I want to ask. I want to ask the two real estate agents on this thing. So I'm going to make a statement here, and I want you both to react to this. And then I'm going to ask you a personal question that you can avoid if you want to. Right?
No, you do not ask me personal questions, Gene. You know how I don't like that.
It's not really a personal question, Greg. We do that off air. It's more of a business related question that you might not want to divulge the answer to. Right? So a little different. But so what I hear Tom saying is excess ancillary cash that let's just use Zillow. That Zillow has to make purchases on properties over and above what they're really worth, thereby squeezing the real estate agent out. And in my head, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I got a bunch of agents that are pumping a ton of money for advertising into Zillow that they're then using that ancillary cash to squeeze them out of the game on. So my question is, am I on the right track? And two is, do either of you guys actually pay Zillow for leads? And again, that second question, leave out of it if you'd rather not say. I'm perfectly fine with that. But I'm curious as to if my statement is on the right track, and if you guys are participating in that, and why not, or why?
Tom, to you.
So whether or not we're buying leads from Zillow,
right?
So I have never really spent a lot on Zillow leads. My business is more like seller lead based, so I've never really done it. But I do have a lot of competitors in my market that have spent so much with Zillow. And Zillow has changed. They have a flex program now where in my market, they're taking 35% off the top automatically. So they're not even like really selling that many leads in my market anymore. And I don't know if they're like heading towards like being a brokerage or what they're trying to do, but they're not even selling as many leads anymore. But I was never heavy on the buyer lead side because I was always seller lead based.
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Greg?
I'm sorry, what was the question again? I'm sorry, I have a guy working in the background.
One, do you think what I said was true about them taking the money from the agents and using it to purchase properties overpriced, thereby squeezing you out? And 100%. Two, and here's the thing. This is what I want to say this to people. Like, if I was a real estate agent, I would be like, I hate Zillow. We got to put them out of business. Unless I was putting $1,500 a month into it and it was making me $60,000. Like, I still have agents that come to me and go, are you doing Zillow leads? And they go, yeah. And I go, why? And they go, because it makes me $40,000 a month. And I go, oh, good on you. Right. Like, I would too. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I mean, you have to do that knowing that what's taking place. And I'm just trying to figure out if I can make the correlation between the two and if that's really what's happening. Because if Redfin's doing the same thing, where are they getting their ancillary cash for? They're not as big as Zillow. They're not selling those leads, as far as I know, out to the real estate agents. So there's got to be another play there. Maybe they're raising capital. I don't know. But I'm just curious about that thought process.
Yeah. You know, the funny thing is, and Tom, I'm going to come back to you really quickly on this one because I want to get your point of view. But for me, I do everything I can to kind of squish Zillow out of my marketing. I mean, I do use their data. Their data is very, very good. But when in regards to kind of the marketing plays that we're doing, is that we definitely downplay and talk a little bit of smack about what Zillow's doing because they said they were never going to compete. Now they're competing. When it comes to paying for their leads, honestly, I think that's 100% asinine. Tom, give me your thoughts on that one.
I mean, I don't know. I have mixed emotions on it because I look at it like you almost have to take advantage of like whatever the market, whatever is working for you. So I know that there's been a lot of people over the years that have really like built their business that way. At the same time, I know what you're saying. And I think a lot of agents feel kind of the same way about Zillow because they've definitely, shifted what they've done over the years. So I've got mixed emotions on it, but I guess if I had to say, if it was working for me, I would probably do it, but it never did work for me. And I never wanted it to work for me because I was seller based. So I just haven't really participating in it.
Yeah. I mean, for Matt, I mean, if he was going to do a marketing campaign, given if he was still in the real estate game, I mean, with his wife, Julie, and their 3 obese little insulin sucking troll babies, who dent wood. I mean, would you do a wood campaign or like a cement campaign? I mean, what would you do for them?
All right, I'm gonna answer the real question that's buried somewhere very, very deep in the middle of that horribly insulting question. Okay, so let's talk. So Tom, let's say I'm Tom, right? And you're losing SEO ground on the first page of Google to your other players. So to me, I mean, you can. We had somebody on the show that's an SEO consultant that used to work at like Hot Pads. Like you could hire somebody like that, and you could go, okay, well, let's strap on the battle armor. And let's go to war and let's try to reclaim the positions. Like you could potentially do that. Maybe not, the best way to go. If I talked to an SEO consultant and he said, look, if they have enough money, they'll always beat you. Like if that was the deal, then I wouldn't fight that battle. I'd be thankful that I'm still on the first page anywhere with all the competition. So if that was the case, I'd start going to the places where it doesn't really matter how much they spend. They can't put a person on the ground that simulates having a personal relationship. So for example, there's still a huge opportunity on YouTube, I think, maybe not quite as much with the seller side. It's a little bit tougher to generate seller leads on YouTube than it is for buyer leads, obviously. But most sellers start off as buyers. They want to get somewhere. So you're going to catch some seller leads that way. I would start looking at YouTube where you and your agents can do the videos. You can use YouTube ads to put them in front of more people, and you can get around there's a way to force. You can force it with cash. You can get more eyeballs on your content than just with something like other types of content like social media. So it's easier to put cash behind it. But at the end of the day, it's based on somebody that's an actual human being that has to have boots on the ground in your area. And that is one thing that the HomeLights, the Redfins, the Zillows, they'll never be able to simulate. They'll never have somebody that's like the Boston Zillow guy who goes on YouTube, is relatable, does video content. You know what I'm saying? So I think we've lived through this really interesting time in the last, I would say 10 years, 15 years of real estate that I've been paying attention since like 06, 07, where we've had this rise in technology and agents were able to capitalize on it in various ways. You had people that got websites that were big with SEO like Jeff Manson and Real Geeks, right? Generate millions of dollars in leads, millions of dollars in revenue. And then the tech companies realize, oh man, we got to get in on this, right? And now they're starting to do what they do best, which is take the tech back, which shouldn't really have been all that surprising. So I think there's a couple things to me that I look out for is doing the things in marketing that only you as an agent and a human being can do, right? SEO, they'll always beat you on that. They can't beat you on YouTube videos. So focus on the human things. And then, as Nick Sakis, who's watching and commented, said, luxury seller still wants and needs a professional agent experience. It's the 200 to 500K that are the tech company's bread and butter. And I think he's exactly right about that, right? So I think if you're an individual agent, if I was in the game selling real estate right now, I'd be running for the hills as quickly as possible, like luxury, like run for the high ground. Because I think everything in the average, if it's a cookie cutter, if you can get an average loan just pushed through that gets turned around and sold to Freddie and Fannie, if it's that level of stuff, like that's where you're most likely to get squeezed out by technology, is the stuff that's repeatable and scalable. The stuff that isn't repeatable and scalable, where it has to have a human touch of some kind, to me, that's where, if I was an agent, that's where I'd be running for. So that, and it's Greg, that's essentially where you live.
Yeah, the luxury market, 100%. But I mean, I'm not 100% sure where your mind is coming from in regards to luxury versus affordable marketplaces. Walk me through that a little bit more.
Okay, so in my mind, it would be the stuff that requires more of a human touch, either because the consumer demands it or because the deal is too complex.
Matt, we all know you don't like human touch. So we cannot rely on that comment. Okay.
It's not, I like human touch very, very much. It's the emotions. I don't like the emotions that come with human touch. It's all those sticky emotions.
Oh, when you say sticky, I have weird things in my mind. But I mean, and by the way, guys, all of you guys are listening. We just got the nose pinch that Matt hates.
Somebody out there's got to have Gringo by now.
No, it's
not
been
yet.
tough,
Not yet, Gene.
No,
all right.
All
right. Greg didn't bring his A game today. I get it.
We got a lot of the stuff comes at the end of this, so don't worry. I think we're in good shape.
Tom,
all right, so let's turn back to Tom.
I want to personally apologize to you, my friend. Matt is misbehaving, and he's going to go into timeout right now. Goodbye, Matt. Okay, now it's just three of us. Okay, now he's back. Okay, good.
All right, Tom. So what do you guys do? Is there anything in particular you're looking at, experimenting with, anything you've got your eye on that you go, okay, if we're going to be a seller-based business and we're going to compete with all these and we're going to start running into tech companies and they're going to recruit our agents away, is there anything you just got your eye on for the future? Are you going back and doing like more direct mail? Are you doing more radio, TV, like just stuff to reach the consumer directly and get around the tech company stuff?
Yeah, I mean, so what we've been like really doubling down on recently is TV, and for whatever reason, they're not doing it in our market. And I think like with all this stuff, like even though we can say that Zillow or Realtor or all these companies, they've got a ton of money, but like they're not somewhere. Like Matt, you alluded to the fact that like they can't be in the one-to-one kind of game, but there's also even within the paid marketing, they're not in every single medium. So like they're not.
Got it.
And for, in my market, like I'm the only one on TV that's like doing like cash offer stuff. So for now, like it's been really great. And, we're just going to keep like doubling down on that. But this isn't like my first time where like something has shifted. And I think that's the other thing for the people that are listening, like especially in real estate. I mean, and with the technology, the way it's going, how fast it's going, how much things are changing, like whatever worked 2 years ago, like it may not work, tomorrow. And so like we're always experimenting with different things, and not that we try to like recreate the wheel, but we're looking for what other people are doing in other markets successfully. And I feel like there's always like that one thing that's working like really good, one or two things that are working really good that like people can take advantage of. And right now for us, like that's TV. Mailers are still working, like pay-per-click is still working. And even with SEO, like we're losing ground, but we're buying those leads from those companies. So at least as of right now, I guess that would be like almost like me buying from Zillow right now in a way, like the way,
right.
So I guess to answer that question, like I would buy from Zillow because I am buying from all these other companies that are selling me the leads. There's always an opportunity within every market. I know there's an opportunity no matter what's going on within the market to kind of like survive. And the one thing that these big companies can't do is like, they're not in your local market. And so like, you're always going to have that competitive advantage over them. Like somebody clicking a button from, 3,000 miles away that's not in your market is going to miss something. So I always feel like even no matter how much money they spend, there's a way to kind of take advantage of it. And like like my friend in Phoenix who's selling, properties to these companies, like he's making more than he's ever made because he found that kind of like nuance. And I think the biggest thing is like looking at other people who are being successful at whatever you're trying to do and see what direction they're going in. And there's always like some direction to go with all this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a mindset stuff, which gets into like, this is definitely getting into territory where Greg loves to talk about. But yeah, I was rereading Psycho-Cybernetics the other day, which is always just a good idea, just a policy of life is to go back and reread that book. And it was just talking about how in order to find the answer that you're looking for, you have to believe it already exists. Like that's one of the most important things. That when a scientist sets out to solve a problem they know has already been solved, like they know there's an answer to it, they just have to find it. Their attitude is completely different than if they're solving an unknown problem or an unsolvable problem that no one's ever solved before. So I think that's one of the things that like as agents or just anybody that's in business, that's sometimes hard to keep in mind, but the more you can kind of build up that mentality of there's always an answer. Like there is always an answer. I may not know what it is. It may be hidden. It may take some work. It may take some thought. It may take some talking to other people, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, there is always an answer out there somewhere. You just have to find it. And like you said, Tom, that's a really interesting idea of the guy like turning around and taking the houses he bought and selling them to Zillow. Like, hey, if they're going to be stupid with their money, you might as well give me some of the stupid money.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to say too is like, not that like I want any of these companies to fail, but it is guaranteed that some of them are going to fail. Mm-hmm. When that happens, there's going to also be opportunity from that. And I don't even know what that will be because you don't know who's going to fail. You don't know like how their companies, maybe they merge with somebody else, or maybe like there's just market share that's given up. There's going to be something because people, no matter how much money they have, no one can run at a loss forever. And a lot of them are running at losses right now. So there are going to be winners and losers that come out of this in terms of like winners and losers for the companies that are huge. And then like the smaller mom and pops like us, like there's going to be some way to take advantage of that. And obviously it boils down to like, working your butt off, following best practices and like trying to see what the opportunity is. And that's why like when I talk to other people, like across the country, no matter what, there's somebody doing something right now that's like killing it and just looking like, is that something that I can implement into my own business? Because there's always going to be competition. No matter if there wasn't competition in the real estate market, there'd be no money to be made, right? Because people crowd into where you can make money. So
right.
There's always going to be competition where there's money to be made, and it's not a bad thing to have competition.
It's a good way to look at it. I like it. Greg, you have anything to comment on that before we start winding down?
No, I think that a lot of the stuff that you guys are talking about, sorry, I had to take my glasses off. I had to clean them for a second. My apologies. You know what? I think a lot of what you're saying is 100% true, Tom, and Matt, and, Gene. I think the ideas that everybody has when it comes to maybe working outside the box a little bit. And again, Tom, correct me if I'm wrong on this one, but if you can correct yourself a little bit and be a little bit outside the box and kind of attract more visibility, do you think that would be a bad thing for your brand? Give me your thoughts on that one.
I mean, I don't think I think, what's the phrase? All attention is good attention, or it's something like,
I think it's all publicity. Yeah.
All publicity.
Well, I tell Matt that all the time when he runs around naked, just in his in his underwear down Main Street, but he doesn't agree with me on this at all.
Hey, that only gets me the right kind of attention, Greg.
No.
Except when I go through Hillcrest in San Diego, then it gets me the wrong kind of attention, but that's okay.
But, yeah, like to go back to the question about like would you work with Zillow or these companies? Like, I mean, I feel like if you can bring that into your company and then you're nurturing these people, like somehow, like, I mean, the one-to-one game there, like, once you get that type of visibility and you're able to like build those relationships locally, because that's the thing, like people aren't going to have relationships with like these big entities. So if you can take over the relationship game, even if you're getting the source of the person and their contact information from somebody else, like, I think in the end, that's what's important. You're building your database.
So Tom, let's break that down for half a second. I know Matt wants to get off because I know he has to poop and probably eat or something like that. We're not sure which one and what order that's going to go in, but it's just Matt. It's just weird. But I mean, and Matt just bailed on this. But in regards to building rapport, walk me through a little bit of rapport building in the social media realm. What would be the first thing that you would do? And Matt's back from pooping. All right, and here he is.
You're not the only one that can decide when I bail from the show.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. What? Oh gosh, there he goes again. God, I hate it when he does that. So, Tom, can you break it down for us a little bit? No, all jokes aside, I mean, yeah, we joke around a lot here, but as you all know, but walk me through that.
Which part?
Building a rapport, on social media, kind of building a brand, a zero cost basis. I mean, how would you recommend folks to do that?
So, I mean, if you want to do social media, social media pretty much can be free. I mean, I think there's a few things that you want to do with social media. Number one, like have your personality be out there. I mean, from my perspective, like what a lot of people do wrong with social media is they try to like make themselves like this perfect kind of person and they don't put their own personality out there. Because at least from, what I feel, people are attracted to people that have a personality, and whatever you like I would put out there and kind of magnify it. And the other thing is just putting yourself out there kind of as a thought leader and thought expert, which a lot of people don't do. I mean, I think the biggest thing most people don't do with social media is they don't put themselves out there, period. Like they're afraid to post or they're afraid to look stupid. And especially with their own personality, afraid to put their own personality out there. But the people who are going to buy from you want your personality, and they're going to buy from you because of your personality and your interests. And there's so many ways. Yeah. So
Tom, break it down for me really quickly. When it comes down to your personality, I mean, what would be a good personality? What would be a bad personality? I mean, why would someone be afraid of putting themselves out there? I mean, do they think they have? I mean, I'll be very honest with all of you guys who've never seen my face. When I was younger, dude, I got big ass fucking Dumbo ears, right? Yep. And I never shied away from it. And I still put my photo out there. People who think they sound weird, they don't speak perfectly. They don't have every perfect answer. I mean, how can people get over those parts of their mental bullshit? For lack of a better word.
Let's put it in terms of like what would.
And that's Gene's vernacular, by the way. Sure. It's not mine. It's not.
Yeah, let's put it in terms of what you would tell. What do you tell your agents, right, when you're trying to get them to build their own personal brand?
People aren't buy from this perfect person. I mean, I think that's the thing. People are not looking to do business with this person like in a suit that's a robot. And I think that's the biggest part. And like
Matt.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever your interests are or whatever your personality is, like hiding that's not going to help you, right? So But by magnifying, I don't think there are bad personalities. I think it's just a matter of like who you're going to connect with. And like, if I put myself out there and I am who I am, that's going to attract a bunch of people. It's also going to repel a bunch of people. But if I come out and I'm completely neutral, it's not going to attract anybody. It may not also repel anybody, but it's not going to attract anybody. So you need to attract some people. So I don't think there is a bad personality. I think there's a bad way of not putting your personality out there and like, just being like very plain and not ever like taking a stance on anything. And I think that's the part where like with so much like interruption that we have in our day, like, hey, Nag's popping by, I'm on my phone. Like if you're the same as everybody else, there is a 0% chance that anyone's going to remember you. So you have to be somewhat memorable in order for somebody to like know that you're even in real estate. So to me, there's no bad personalities, but there's a way that you can put yourself out there that's bad, which is like just being exactly like everybody else and just blending in.
So Matt needs to go after musical, individuals, and then Gene needs to go after very, very bald people. They can relate.
I see Matt put his music stuff out there all the time, and like that's a part of him that I didn't even know about, and it's like, I feel like I know Matt better, even though he never told me he was a musician. So I think that that's the type of stuff that matters. It helps because people feel like they know you, and then they have a conversation with you. easier. Or if you're lucky enough that they have that same hobby, now it's like you're really bonding. Whereas like if Matt just put out there like, nothing, like, whatever, he put out something that would just, people wouldn't remember. Like I remember that about Matt because of the fact that like not a lot of people put that out there. So it's like that's the stuff I think that matters.
Okay, so Tom, can you remember the first time Matt put out a video and photo of him with long hair?
I cannot remember the date, but I can remember multiple pictures of me where I was surprised that was him. So again, that stood out in my mind.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's a good thing. But I will tell you that I was surprised.
I mean,
so is everybody that knows
braces.
me.
I mean, he had his back brace on. He had his braces on his teeth. He's rolling.
Wait a minute. Are you you just set me up to see the picture? Are you telling me you don't have that ready to go?
I don't, and it's completely full of shit. He did have long hair, but he doesn't have braces or a back brace. Even though that would be phenomenal stuff to make fun of.
My dad said I looked like a roadie for Led Zeppelin.
So my girlfriend in the background, she has scoliosis, and she's like, "Hey, what's wrong with having a back brace?" And I'm like, "Nothing. I'm sorry, honey. I love you. I love you."
So wait. All right. On that note, before Greg ends up in the doghouse with his girlfriend, let's wrap things up.
Wait, Matt, hold on real quick. Just give me a second here. I want to see if there's anything on here about upsets people with scoliosis. No, I don't have that on here.
No,
I gotta.
It's not on Gringo Bingo. Okay. Tom, what's the best way for people to reach out and connect?
Probably the best way is Facebook. I'm on Facebook as Tommy Caffarella. That's what people call me when I was younger, and I've never changed that socially. But somewhere along the lines, somebody said, "Oh, you have to tell people you're Tom." So, but Tommy Caffarella is my Facebook. I'm on that thing 24/7. So that's the easiest way, to connect with me. And probably the easiest is the Messenger app on Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'll contribute in here that everyone should listen to his podcast, Agent Investor, which we produce, of course. But Tom interviews some of the agents around the country that are also investors, either investing on the side or like half and half, whatever the case is. So if you're interested, like if you're in the audience and you're an agent and you're interested in getting into that, or you're already into it and you want to hear from people that are doing it, and we're talking about people that are like active agents who invest, not people who were agents and then left to go be an investor, so they're not selling anymore. We're talking about people that are active in the business, they're licensed, they're selling real estate, and they're investing. They're leveraging their skills in both ways. So go listen to Agent Investor. You can get that on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And Gregory,
yes.
How should people reach out to you, and why should they reach out to you?
As always, Matt, I'm going to direct them over to your personal cell phone, 402-441-1115. And that is where you can, they can personally book time on my calendar through your resources. But if you don't want to do that, you can go directly to me. You can go to 925-915-1978. And I'm here just to make fun of Matt. And we're going to talk about EXP. Guys, we got a lot of stuff going on with EXP. We have a whole trucking side that's coming on. It is actually really incredible. I mean, also you can see pictures of me and my doggo like this. And not even Matt, he helps carry his own food. Look at that. Matt, you should be ashamed of yourself by not doing that. My gosh. But yeah, no, seriously, guys, we are looking to hire on our EXP team. We are hiring around the country. Again, we have the trucking side. If you guys want to go from a small pack to a big pack of individuals, come join us. Don't be this, which is a dumpster fire. And always, and I mean always, you guys have to go sign up for this pamphlet. Matt, what is that?
That would be my book again. So I think that's the second entry on the Gringo for the book. Getmicrofamous.com for me. You can learn about the book if you're on the introverted side, especially if you're in coaching consulting. That is the playbook for how to build influence and become famously influential to the right people. You can also get the links for the Microfamous podcast and learn more about our podcast production service there too. So Gene, otherwise known as the Genvelope, were you smirking over there because did you actually get Gringo on this episode?
No, I'm still I'm actually surprised. I thought he was going to go into There was something there that I thought he was offered you to watch the car, and he didn't. He went to the
that's been scrolling underneath the episode the whole time.
Yeah, but he's got
running on the
it.
bottom.
He's got to say it. You got to say it out loud.
All right, so you guys, if you guys want to have a lot of fun, and you want Matt to come over and personally be your human servant, he would love to wash your car with rocks. With water. My deepest apologies. But come on over. He'll do it. You have 245 very, very happy customers. They have scratches all over their vehicles, and he would love to do it for you.
I don't know where this comes from. All right, gentlemen, shall we choose a color to wrap up this episode?
Give it to Tom.
All right.
It's Tom.
Give a color.
Yeah, choose a color.
Green.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching our show. We truly appreciate it, and we love you. Guys, we're going to put a bow on the show. It's going to be a green bow, courtesy of Tom, our reoccurring victim, a.k.a. Matt's client. And we so appreciate all the content that he brought on here, guys. We can't do this without you, so please go out there and give us a 5-star, not a 2-star review on any place that you guys watch or listen to podcasts, so that this will get out to more people. But as always, guys, until next time, peace out, ninjas. We gone.